You've tuned in to Arm and a Leg and Other Opinions We Like to Give, a weekly podcast hosted by two veterans dedicated to politics, current events, interviews, and anything else they want to mention, but probably shouldn't. So without further ado, here are your hosts, Robbie the Dream Gaupp and Brett Miracle Man Parks.
Hey, what's going on? And thank you so much for tuning in to another Arm and a Leg and Other Opinions We Like to Give podcast. I am Brett Parks.
And this is your boy, Robbie Gaupp.
So we're doing something extra today. It's our new thing. We're kind of on the ropes here. We are doing a Facebook Live podcast as well as a podcast on the Zoom meeting, which will also go onto our YouTube account, Arm and a Leg and Other Opinions We Like to Give YouTube account, and SoundCloud and all that good stuff. But right now we're trying to figure this out, so we'll see what happens. Anyways, how are you, Mr. Robbie?
Great. You know, I just had my birthday on Sunday. I'm big 33 now.
33 years old.
Yeah, 33. Not a day goes by that I feel like I'm getting older, though.
Wow. Yeah, I know. So you got that little one that just turned 1, and now you're 33. Your significant other is what, 46, 47?
Yeah. She's aging like fine wine.
It's weird. So yeah, we have a few things that we want to pinpoint on today. And first and foremost, I want to just bring everyone's attention to the fact that it's the 1-year anniversary of the Mayweather and Conor MacGregor fight boxing match a year ago this week. So what do you think, man?
I mean, I did watch the fight. I actually purchased it while I was still living in Texas. I thought it was a pretty good fight. I do believe it was, you know, more of a kind of a gimmicky type thing, so Mayweather could get his 50-0 and also make a big payday, just like Conor did. I am excited about the rematch because, you know, who knows? It could go either way.
Yeah, they are talking about doing a rematch, aren't they?
They are talking about doing a rematch.
I know Mayweather was he was talking about doing an MMA fight, but then I heard things like you're not allowed to kick. You can't take him to the ground. It's like, come on, man. If you're gonna let a guy, if you're gonna make guys follow the rules, you know, in your boxing, in your arena, why are you gonna do the exact opposite for them?
Yeah, is it really MMA or is it just taking boxing and putting it in a octagon?
That's what he wants. If I were Conor, I'd say, yeah, that's fine. We do that. And then
choke him out.
The second Mayweather got in there, man. Oh, roundhouse.
Yep.
But so this might be unpopular to a lot of people, but I believe that the biggest fight in combat sports history was Mayweather versus Conor McGregor. And a lot of people really, I was listening to Chael Sonnen yesterday, actually. He has a YouTube account. And I was talking to him, and he says that that history is actually being rewritten when it comes to that fight, because a lot of people are saying that fight was a joke, is no good, it's horrible, all this stuff, and the numbers really don't show that.
Yeah, but you know, I think in today's society, a lot of people just watch things for entertainment. It's not, you know, even if it's a joke, people are going to pay to watch it just because who wouldn't watch a kangaroo fight somebody, you know? Like, it's just one of them things.
Yeah, if they put kangaroo on pay-per-view to fight somebody, I would probably order it.
I would too. It's just, the point is, you know, it's just people nowadays will pay to watch stupidity. That's
true. But let me just give you a few of the statistics that I found when it comes to that boxing match a year ago. It was, like I said, the biggest fight in combat sports history. The gate intake made roughly $70 million. $70 million at the gate, and it had 6.4 million views. Now compare that to the biggest take at the gate for MMA. That would be the biggest take was November 2 years ago. It was Alvarez versus McGregor, and it was $17.1 million. That's it, just $17.1 million. Now the second biggest boxing event of all time was Pacquiao versus Mayweather, and it only had 4.6 million views. So the Mayweather Conor, that fight beat the Pacquiao Mayweather fight by 30% as far as viewership.
Wow.
So yeah, it's huge. Like, and a lot of people are saying that even the judges that called the fight, they had Mayweather winning every one of the rounds. But I just think that was a mix. Chael Sonnen actually had Mayweather winning 6 rounds, which it's Chael Sonnen, I think, is a little bit biased. But then Teddy Atlas, he's one of the most respected minds in boxing in America. He had Conor winning 4 rounds, which is huge. You know, it definitely was a back and forth. And then Mayweather says that he carried Conor through the whole thing. He's like, no, I just carried him for the crowd. Now, he's not a very bright person, but he's bright enough to know that that's highly illegal in competitive boxing. You cannot carry someone through rounds. And I think that was just him trying to save face, because I think Conor had a little bit more for him than he was anticipating.
Yeah, I agree with you. I do think Conor came out, at first, I mean, he gave really good hopes that he was going to knock Mayweather out possibly. I can't say he didn't carry him. Who knows? I mean, that's, it's one of them things that, boxers, I'm sure, have done it in the past, and to make that money and to give you a good card. So it is hard. It's hard to say in that aspect. I do feel, as boxing and UFC are doing this right now, it is one of them things that I think it's kind of cool to see, because I'm sure you do have pretty good boxers that could do good in boxing, and vice versa. And maybe even some boxers that could do good in the UFC eventually. I can't not wait till UFC 229 when Conor McGregor is, going to be fighting one of the Khabib Nurmagomedov.
The Russian
I'm
guy,
not sure how
right?
you say. Yeah, it's the Russian guy, and I can't wait to see what that's to come for Conor McGregor, because I do believe this is going to be his hardest fight.
Yeah, no, it's going to be tough, and I'd like to say that Conor's going to come out and beat him, but Conor, he's had a kid since his last fight, and it changes you, man. It really does. A lot of people, they say, no, having kids doesn't change you, this, that, and the other. But your mentality when it comes to hunger, it changes a person, and I'm kind of worried for him.
I agree with you. I am worried about it. As far as he hasn't fought I think since the Mayweather fight.
Right.
So it is going to be a big driving force as far as what is going to happen with that.
Right. And just so you guys know, the ones that are watching on Facebook Live, if you have any comments or any questions as we are talking, please just let us know, write it down, give us a comment, and we'll try to answer it in real time. I think, Robbie, you need to talk up just a little bit, because it's a little bit quiet over on this side. But
sounds
anyway,
good. I'll get that. I'll fix that a little bit.
That's neither.
I'll bring my mic closer.
So what else do we got on the docket?
Today we have a few big topics that we're going to be talking about. First off, I'd like to send my condolences. I'm sure you do too, to the McCain family. We did lose him this past week. It's kind of an emotional thing for everybody, because we have a lot of people coming out, that support him as a hero. Some people don't support him as a hero, but in the end, we did lose somebody's life to brain cancer. So it is something that, either way, when you look at it and you sit down and you have to say, a person did take office, and they represented their state and their, in this country either way. So I would like to send my condolences out to his family.
I agree. Love him or hate him, he always did what he felt was right for the country. He was a naval aviator. And he served his country the best he knew how, and you got to applaud a guy for doing that. So I've been praying for the family members, and that God will just wrap their arms around them and comfort them at this time. So yeah. Yeah,
it's one of the things. It's when you sit down and you think about it, it's like it was still another life lost. So, on to the next thing. We would really like to talk about in society today. There is really no more civil debates. Like we're all just firing off about things without any remorse, and even thinking about consequences of our actions or what we say anymore. So how do you feel about civil debate?
It really is ridiculous. And I touched a little bit about this last week, about how how social media has taken humanity out of debate and out of civil discussions. You know, when you're looking at a profile picture and debating somebody online, it's not a human to you, it's a computer. And there's such vile things and negative things that you say online that you wouldn't dare say in front of that person, not for the intimidation factor. It's just the fact that you're in front of a human being. And that's one thing we all have in common, that we're human beings. I have lost more friends these past 2 years that think differently than me politically than I have my whole 30-something years on earth. It's ridiculous. There's one guy in particular that he was like a brother to me. Like, he was my little brother as far as I was concerned. And I felt like the day Donald Trump won presidency, he wrote me off, and that was it. He blocked me. He didn't want to talk to me anymore. I even went up to Chicago where he lives, and I called him a couple of times. Hey man, I'm up here. Let's have some coffee. And he was like, yeah. Last second he would just cancel on me. So it's really hurtful to see stuff like that. Now it comes to a point where you, it's almost like you shouldn't even try to debate someone that thinks differently than you anymore, because people are so dug in on their opinions. There is no room for budging for them. And I'm that way with a lot of things as well, although I try to stay more down the line. And a lot of times when I do debates on Facebook, I'm just so discouraged at the whole, the premise of the argument that I start trolling people. And that's bad on my part. I start trolling because I get so angry. I'm like, you can't possibly think this. But I mean, it's just what happens. And it really ticks me off. It's really, let me fix this. Go on.
Well, you know, it's one of them things that when we all sit down and think about it, and you're having a debate, it's not actually something that's affecting you in any way a lot of times. So I believe whenever it is affecting you, then of course you're going to have more of a angry outburst towards it or whatever. But now, even a lot of times in today's society, where people are having angry outbursts over debates that don't even have nothing that really deals between them. It's more like you said, you know, you lost a friend over just because somebody became in office. That has nothing really to do with your friendship in either way, because unless you're bringing it into that. But some people automatically say, hey, you know what? You were voting for Donald Trump. I wasn't going for him. I was going for Hillary. And now we can no longer be friends because this is a problem. And I don't see that all the time. I don't see it personally, but I know I've heard about it, and I've had debates with people that I was in the military with, you know, just over, you know, what's happening in society at the moment. So it is definitely a driving force that I feel shouldn't be, but because some people have been friends for a very long time, and then when you're losing friendships that, you know, could be 20 or even 30 years old over just a civil debate that you can actually talk about something, you know, it is a big problem.
Yeah, it really is. It's ridiculous. When it comes down to it, you know, what's really important is not the politics of this nation. It's the humanity of this nation. And I think that we've lost sight of that. We've lost track. And I think Donald Trump has a lot to do with it. But to be honest, this has been going on like this ever since George W. Bush took office. Like, I remember I was up in New York when he won re-election, and people were so upset. They're yelling, take it to the streets. They're trying to riot and stuff. And I'm like, why is everyone so wacky right now? It's 4 years, then you vote again. You'll be fine. It's not a dictatorship.
But then it's also, you know, when we look at it, it's just different. It's just a different era nowadays. We have keyboard warriors. We have people that would never say something to somebody's face. Instead, they would message it out. And if you did meet them somewhere, they would definitely act completely different. So it is one of the things I think, you know, I grew up in a time when we didn't have a lot of social media. You know, I didn't even have a phone until I was 20-some years old. So it's definitely changed now where like even my kids have phones. So I'm one of them people I feel with society's change, then more people are more opinionated in things versus, you know, hey, sit back and let's just talk about it. They're more like, hey, it's my way, or guess what? I don't have to like you anymore because I have 500 other followers, which the world's based on followers now. So
yeah, no, you're right. I mean, Joe Rogan, I listen to his podcast. He's a great great interviewer, great podcaster.
Great podcast.
Those of you that don't know about Joe Rogan and his podcast, check it out because it's really is cool. But he said something the other day to Neil deGrasse Tyson. He said, because Neil deGrasse Tyson, he listens, he reads the comments when he tweets and everything. And he says to himself, he's like, man, these people don't like this person doesn't like this, and kind of worried about it. And Joe Rogan said, sometimes you just got to drop and go, man. Just say what you want to say and just don't even worry about the comments. And I think it's where, people have opinions, and that's one thing. And if you're on your wall and you're in Facebook and you post an opinion on your Facebook or Instagram, which luckily Instagram's not really political, too bad. But like any other thing, tweet, there's going to be someone offended. Let's face it, we live in the age of phony outrage. Everybody's outraged about everything. And someone's going to be offended. So you just say your piece and you just leave it at that. Don't try debating people. And if you're going to try to debate people, I've done this a few times and it's kind of worked, but I haven't done it much. Try to find a common ground first. Try to find a middle ground. Say, okay, what do we agree on right now? And there's been people in my life that I'm friends with that we don't agree with anything, like anything. It's amazing.
Well, I think it's really hard too, because now a lot of times, we don't have typical conversations anymore, even at home. So I think social media and more in the civil debates that most people would have, we're going off of Facebook, off of what we read from others and this and that. So it's actually affecting households, because now where you could actually go, hey, how was work today? You're like, hey, did you read this on Facebook? Did you read this on the internet? So it is one of them things. I think it's creating more of almost a wall between people nowadays, where we're boxing ourselves in and not letting others in. Instead, we push them out. It's so much easier to do that.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I can tell as far as a home breakdown, the family breakdown. My brother and his wife, I used to live up in South Carolina, and I used to go hang out at his house all the time because I was single and I was hungry. So they would let me eat at their house and everything. But when we'd sit on the couch, all of us, we'd sit in the TV room and watch, I don't know, The Amazing Race or something. And I would notice that they were on their phones or on their iPads or whatever. And they were just sitting there watching TV while on their individual iPads. And I was like, oh, man, they're not, communicating. They're just hanging out. I'd never do that. But now I'm married, 3 kids. I do the same thing with my wife. I'm sitting on the couch. She's looking at Instagram. I'm looking at something on Facebook, trolling somebody, and we're watching a TV show. And it's just like, it's so easy to get into that kind of like an addictive cycle where you need to be looking at your social media all the time.
And then you really see like the individual breakdown, because where I may have been for something, but then I changed my mind based on, what I read or this or that, then the person that you're trying to have that debate with, whether it be your wife or your kids or whatever, they might not have got the same info that you have. So in their minds, they're automatically against it. So you're creating an argument that is really not necessary, but some people aren't interested in looking up facts or looking up, the news that you read. They're just opposed to it. So it's like instantly, hey, I'm against you. So it's like, and I think that's a lot of the family problems nowadays is social media. Social media has come in and it's kind of taken over families.
Yeah, I think it's something like, I don't know the exact statistics, so please don't quote me on this, but I think it's something like in the 60 percentile when divorcees, when they list what is one of the main contributors to divorce, their relationships breaking apart, they put Facebook.
I think social media in general, like you said, in general, because there's some people they have it's just a problem. They can't get off of it. They can't stop it. And it's not, I'm not saying it's just social media, because, back in the day, I remember when I first joined the military in 2003, they had, video games were the thing. So video games are break up relationships because people wanted to play Call of Duty, and Call of Duty was it. And they'd sit on there for days and hours, and it just kind of ruined relationships. And so this is just the new video games of today.
Yeah. Yeah. Now don't let us give you the impression that we are anti-social media. We're not anti-social media. No. I think that it's great. I think we live in the greatest time in the history of the world because we have so much knowledge on our fingertips. But where it gets crazy is when you kind of pervert it. You know what I mean? When you kind of abuse it, you do things on there or look up things that maybe you shouldn't be looking up.
Well,
and disguising it as research.
One of our biggest things now is like when we're having dinner, we take away phones. We put that away because you at least need an hour where you can sit and talk with your family and this and that. If you have friends over, don't have your phones out. Maybe make a basket where you can say, hey, phone stop here. We're gonna play games and we're gonna talk and we're gonna have a social status where we're not on our phone. I shouldn't have to text you across the room that say, hey, what's up?
Right. No, that's so true. My wife and I were talking right before we started this podcast, and I've been real discouraged lately because I just got into a civil, not so civil discussion with one of my ex softball players about Donald Trump not giving federal workers a raise this year. And without getting into too much detail, I said that, I'm okay with it for right now because, we have to start tightening our belts and stuff like that. And she was saying how I have no idea what I'm talking about because I'm not a federal worker. And and there's so many people that came on and just started just bash me, calling me a tribalist and all this stuff. And I'm like, what's that have to do with anything? I'm talking about fiscal responsibility. So I was really discouraged. I was kind of pissed, when I was about to come on here, and my wife was like, maybe you shouldn't look up anything on Facebook or anything this weekend. And I was like, you know what, that might be a great idea. So I think that's actually exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to not get on Facebook. I'll get on Instagram because it's not political. Just look at pictures, but Facebook, man, I got to steer clear this weekend.
Yeah, it's one of the things, it creates almost an anger, anxiety type thing in your body every time you just sit on there. I mean, it's a big problem right now, even with anxiety and stuff. People say all the time, oh, I was on social media and I have this problem now where I've seen this. And we talked about this in a previous podcast before, that, people are so focused on social medias and stuff right now that it's almost become a hindrance in their lives, and that's what I'm saying. If there's one thing that you could take away from this segment of our podcast is be human. You're a human. You're not a computer. Take your time, get together, and actually enjoy life for what it is, because we're not computers and we shouldn't be on it all the time. And our minds are literally being brainwashed by a lot of times what we read versus the knowledge that we're gaining from seeing it or feeling it in this world. So
I agree.
So now on to our next subject. We have, so Brett, I want to ask you about this. Do you believe, with all that's going on with the Pope right now, do you feel that in light of the pedophilia in, I guess, Pennsylvania, right, that the Pope should possibly resign?
Well, here's what I think about it. Before going into it, there are bad apples in every bunch. No matter what profession there is, there are some bad people there. I agree with you. I don't want to single out Catholicism as the big evil, because they're not. There are people in the Catholic Church that are like that. There are people in, I think public school system has like 4 times as many sexual harassment, sexual assault cases a year than the Catholic Church does. But we're specifically talking about the Catholic Church. And as far as Pope Francis goes, if he knew that stuff was going on and he tried to cover it up, I think most definitely he should resign. But if he didn't really know, if he thought that they might have heard some whispers that sounded kind of like joking and he wasn't really sure, he just didn't look into it, I'm a little bit more on the fence when it comes to that.
Now my question is, for you, if we're going to say that it was jokingly, it was whispers, we're just going to go with that, but he didn't look into it, do you kind of hold responsibility on him for not looking into it, though?
I think he has to have some responsibility brought on him when it came to that. When it comes to stuff like that, and when it comes to in the Catholic Church and in the Protestant Church and Judaism and most religions, when there's an injustice, when there's what we call in the Christian faith, when there are sins, it doesn't matter how little the sin is, every sin needs to be treated seriously, because because that's what we're trying to overcome in this world is sin. And we can only do that through Christ Jesus. But I think even if he heard like some things that were kind of joking and ha ha ha, that's something that he should have really just put the brakes on, said, listen, this is not happening. If it is, you need to let me know. We don't joke about this stuff. And I hate to sound like a prude on this, but he is the Pope. And as the Pope, he is really the head of the Catholic Church when it comes to like, he is Jesus's representative, like the big man on campus on the earth. And he needs to act accordingly. And he needs to be that light, even in dark places, like some areas of the church.
Now we've seen this in different types of I guess jobs and stuff where I'm just going to say the Pope's basically in a job. He's a leader where, just like hospitals, they have malpractice. Instead of firing the doctor, they just move him to a new place. Well, I know the Catholic Church has done the same thing with priests. Like, hey, we've had a problem with this priest here. Let's transfer him to another church,
Mm-hmm.
and then the same thing kind of happens there and there until they finally get rid of the person. Now, this has been happening for centuries, I'm sure, as far as the pedophilia within the Catholic Church. And it's kind of been more of the highlight because I believe it's always been shown that it's been that. Of course, it's through all religions. It's not just Catholicism and the Catholic religion in any way. It's been found in other religions as well. But it's one of the things is where it is such a big deal with the Catholic Church. And if the Pope did hearsay and didn't do nothing about it, I believe not only should he resign, I do believe that somehow you almost have to prosecute him with the people who's doing this, because it's one of them things it's looked over and over and over, and somebody's always getting a free ride, and if he's in on this and he knew about it and just let it continue to go, I mean, it's just like everything else. If the big head honcho knows and got away with it, then who knows, the next person's going to do the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's an argument to be made when it comes to that. I've heard some horrible things that were going on, and how these kids that were sexually molested, the priest that did it would give him a gold cross as a necklace, as like a prize, but really what it was is kind of like a cattle branding. So the other priests knew that he was a kid that would go along with the molestation. I mean, that's really sickening stuff, and it's like a punch to my gut. And if he did know about it and he didn't do anything about it, yeah, I think that that's something that we need to look into as far as prosecuting him. Now, I know the Catholic Church has their own justice system, kind of own way to do things, but this goes beyond the church, and as it should. It should.
Oh yeah, definitely.
They should be held accountable just like any one of us.
Yeah, because I think the biggest thing, it is gut wrenching, like you said. First off, because I have kids, and I'd hope if I was even in a situation like that first off, I hope my kids come to me. But if they didn't, then who knows? Like what else this could open up as far as flood doors, and that child now has to live with that for the rest of their life. The humiliation, I guess, that other kids will be bullying for, plus it's just something they has to live with within himself, that, hey, this happened to me and how do I fix this,
Right.
And it is hard to say that, that, and with knowing that somebody at least had to pay a price for it, it kind of makes it easier, even though it don't take it away. If it's just like if I went out down the street and I got robbed, yeah, it sucks because I got robbed, but knowing that the person got caught and is prosecuted for it makes it a little bit easier that, hey, this happened,
Right. Yeah, no, it's sad, man.
Yeah, we see it so often now. It is really sad, isn't it? And it's not even just that. It's grown-ups, to all these victims that, I think a lot of times we had overlooked this kind of stuff back in the past, and now at least it's coming to limelight, so more people are aware of it and are more precautious of it, I guess I would say. So it's, whenever I live at my house, if my kid goes somewhere, like there's a lot of times I'll ask them after, like, hey, how was your day? What happened? Or I tell my kids, hey, I'm not a big man, but hey, if something bad happens like this, don't be afraid. Because I know a lot of times people try to threaten, oh, well,
Right.
this or that. Like, don't be afraid for my life. Don't be afraid for your life, because I will always take care of you. Like, I want my kids to understand that. So
Yeah, it sucks that we're in a place in the world where we have to sit our kids down and talk to them about stuff like that. I mean, when we were kids, we had the same talk too. Question I have for you is, uh, is it worse now than it was when we were kids, or is it just more easily uh, accessible due to social media and 24 hours news cycles?
I think, I'm not going to say it's worse. I think back in the day, it was easy to keep getting away with it because there was no real security type thing to stop it from happening. At least now, if somebody gets caught with it, their picture is posted all over the internet. People see it. People are kind of checking on that stuff more often.
Right.
So I believe that it's not worse because people are being caught versus back in the day when people weren't being caught. But
Right.
at the same time, I do believe that with new websites and new, like, even like from social media escapes where people can go on there. Even my daughter right now, she has a app called Musically, and it's not too bad. But grown people go on there and watch kids sing songs,
Oh,
and
that's where they kind of like karaoke and
yeah,
people
they like lip
from
sync, and people can go on
right.
there and watch their videos, and it's just kind of odd. Like,
It
and
is
I've told my kids, hey, don't be doing things just because people ask you. If
right.
they ask you, hey, can you dance in circles? They start off small, and then they'll
Right.
start asking you bigger things, and you kind of feel like, oh, I'm getting a view, so let me try this. And I stress that even though my kids are young, hey,
Right.
don't be doing these things. Like, you're not getting a sucker from them.
Yeah, you gotta teach them young, man.
Yeah, especially nowadays. I think that's the big thing with the social medias and stuff, and with electronic build, is if you don't teach young, then you're kind of behind the loop when you get older. So it's almost relevant but irrelevant. Like, you should have your kids using electronics now, because it is tomorrow. Tomorrow is already here at our door.
Right.
So you should be using electronics, but at the same time, you got to be weary of what electronics are going to bring,
Right. Right. Oh,
especially Snapchats and stuff like that. People can add all the time and check your videos out and stuff like that. It is scary because I don't want to have a grown man watching my daughter, you know, dance and
yeah.
sing songs. It's kind of odd.
I mean, it's like, yeah, that's true. And it's not just the children that are possible victims. There's, husbands and wives and, brothers and sisters. It's just crazy, man. Some of the stuff, and some people, like, kind of like what I was saying before, there's no humanity in social media. So some people are like, they're so bold in the things that they request. And it's stuff that would never freaking would float face to face.
We just got a message in, so let me see what
Yeah.
this is right here. So Ryan Penny just stated, or you can read it, Brett, because you can see all the posts.
Oh, Ryan, you said, let me see if I can get there. Um, I actually don't think I can. Hold on. Here it is. All right. It says the problem is that we give way too much authority to those appointed over us, priests, police, politicians, and there's no repercussion from most of those in authority. Oops. Uh, Kids and people in general fear telling on those of authority, for they might not believe them. Yeah, I think uh, a huge point in that. It's a great point, Ryan, about that. Thanks for commenting. Yeah, there is. We kind of get conditioned when we're very young that policemen are good guys, doctors are good guys, teachers are good guys, and you do what they tell you. Don't disobey them. And then when something like that happens, when there's a bad apple there in that bunch, and they mess around with you, number one, it's authority, and we've kind of been conditioned to say, to obey, 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 obey. And then it's an adult on top of that. And as children, we forget how illogical some things that these evil people say. Like, if you tell your parents, I'm going to kill them, stuff like that. It's like, and it's scary for a kid. But you're right, Ryan. That's a great point.
Yeah, it's one of the things when we sit back and we think about it, it's kind of almost been brainwashed into us to always give it's like my father. If somebody would, we're just gonna we'll give a random instance. Say Jerry's dad said, "Hey, you stay with your grandpa. Your grandpa's good." We're just gonna give an example, but the grandpa does something. Well, it's hard for the dad to believe Jerry because in his mind he doesn't want to accept that. It's hard. It's hard to do that, and it's just like the politicians type of context in the police. We put those people there to watch our kids, and we think they're always going to do the right thing. But as like Brett Park said, there's a bad apple, and when there's a bad apple, and there's always one. There's always going to be one in due time. Because even if you get all good apples, eventually one will go bad somehow.
Right.
And it's not. And you have to let your kids know that hey, this is a good person. I've known them forever and this and that. But be cautious because you never know what is out here. You never know, even if it's your spouse and she's going to work, like, hey, if this kind of stuff is happening and somebody starts, kind of always being in your area, be weary because you never know what these people are today or are thinking or whether they even care about life because we see lives are taken every day from stupidity. So
right. Yeah, it's a great point.
But it is sad that people appointed over us, a lot of them now are doing things like this because those are the people that we kind of especially right now with the police officers and the politicians and even the priest that are doing all the things. It's hard to say, hey, stay focused and believe because we see so much bad happening all the time now with social media. Social media is showing more bad things versus good because everything's better when there's bad versus, who wants to see the sun shine every day?
Yeah. If it bleeds, it leads. That's what the news organizations try to teach. And if it bleeds, it leads. And it's very discouraging. And we both have very young children and I'm concerned, I want my daughter to feel safe in the world. I want my son to feel safe, but you never know, man. You just have to roll the dice and hope it goes your way,
It's true.
So Robbie, I know those of you that are new to this, that are on Facebook Live, we have something every week called Strange News.
Strange News.
And that's when we pick a news article that's just strange and out of the ordinary. And Robbie, you got one today. What you got?
Yeah, give me 1 second. Let me pull this up. It's pretty crazy.
And remember, those of you that are in Facebook Live, if you want to watch this again or share this, we have a YouTube. We have a YouTube account, Arm and a Leg Podcast. You go ahead and look that up and make sure you subscribe and hit the notification buttons as well. And also our Facebook page, Arm and a Leg Podcast on the Facebook page. Go ahead and give us a like so then you get some notifications when our shows come on.
So this is really strange news, and it's to me, it kind of affects me because I love seafood. So this is definitely affecting me. A man loses forearm after eating contaminated raw seafood. A 71-year-old man in South Korea experienced every sushi lover's worst nightmare when doctors had to amputate his forearm, apparently because he'd consumed contaminated raw seafood. The unnamed patient showed up at Konbuk National University Medical School in Jeonju with a fever and severe pain in his left hand, according to the case study published last month in the New England Journal of Medicine. The patient told doctors the problem started 12 hours after he'd eaten raw seafood. Though the article does not specify what kind of seafood it actually was that he had consumed, the doctors noticed a deep purple blister measuring 1.4 by 1.8 inches on the man's hand and discovered it was infected with Vibrio vulnificus, flesh-eating bacteria, found in salt water and similar to the bacteria that causes cholera. Is that how you say it, Brett?
Cholera or cholera? I don't know. It could be either.
The doctors performed emergency surgery to remove the bacteria and gave the man antibiotics. However, when the flesh on the patient's hand and arm started dying, doctors had to amputate his left forearm 25 days after his first hospital visit.
Wow. So yeah. All right. First, let me just ask this question that I'm probably the only one that's thinking about it. Why would they say that he amputated his forearm? Does that mean like they kept his hand, or what's going on here? Why don't they just say they had to cut him below the elbow?
Well, I mean, I'm not sure why that is, but I'm sure they amputated his forearm to his hand,
Yeah.
which is completely gone. My greatest fears actually is flesh eating bacteria. I am deathly afraid of because I've known so many people who has lost limbs from flesh eating bacteria.
Oh,
One is one of my good friends and ex competitor, Christopher Parks, which is
yeah.
crazy story from him about flesh eating bacteria. And then also my girl's grandfather lost lost his leg to flesh eating bacteria in the ocean. So
What?
yes, so two people that I know personally have had flesh eating bacteria, and I am just terrified of it.
So this was sushi, right? This was sushi.
Sushi.
It's not like they ingested the sushi and got an infection on their forearm. He must have had like a cut on his forearm, and he got some of the sushi juice on it,
Maybe
or
on his
something.
hand, maybe he had a cut on his hand, and then while picking up the sushi, somehow the
Yeah.
fish might have touched his hand, or not sure. I've always heard crazy stories about it, like people even getting like little nicks from rocks while in the
Yes.
ocean, or this or that, and then bam, it's stuck, and you know 3 months later, 6 weeks later, your leg's gone. You know,
It's
or
scary.
it's very scary. And I love sushi, so
I know. I love it so much. What's your favorite sushi?
eel. I love eel
You like
roll,
eel?
dragon roll, anything like that. I love eel sauce. I love it.
I'm a
So
spicy tuna roll kind of guy.
I like tuna.
That's just me.
I like the tuna. It's pretty good. It's
I'm taking
just.
baby steps. I just got there. I've been on a California roll kick for like 15 years now. So I was like, all right, I'll try the tuna.
Have you
So
tried eel?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Dude, you need to try it. It's very good. The meat's so good. Sadie didn't really ever try it either. But once I guess, asked her to give it a shot, like she loves eel now. She loves it.
Really? What kind of sauce do you put on the eel?
It's eel sauce. It actually is like a
Oh,
sauce.
eel sauce is my favorite.
Yes, and it
I
comes
put
on
that
there.
on everything.
So it comes on there with the eel. So it's like amazing, amazing sauce and amazing texture because the eel is actually kind of chewy-ish, but yet not like it has a delicate meat, but then it has like a skin that's very chewy. So it's almost like you're getting both textures, and the texture is really good. So
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Is the eel raw or no?
no, it's still cooked. The eel is cooked.
Oh, okay. So the
The
eel's
meat's
oh,
cooked.
so then
Yeah,
I'd probably like it.
yeah, you might like it.
It's the
Tastes,
raw part that I have a tough time getting over.
yeah,
So, all right. Well, maybe I'll try it next time I go.
yeah. I think you should give it a shot. You know, it's like one of the things I always tell my kids. You have to give something an opportunity before you ever know if it's good or bad for you.
This is
So,
true.
it's kind of bad because I don't want to ever put them in a life or death situation where they're trying to take an opportunity to do that. But it's one of the things, you know, if you never give it a shot, you never know how good it could be.
This is true. You got a point there. Uh-oh. All right, guys. Well, here we are at the end of this broadcast. I had to go ahead and I had to figure out this Facebook here. And thank you. Thank you. So many people are applauding. So this is our first Facebook Live, and I think we stumbled through it, and we got it done. But we need to perfect that a little bit. So yeah, Robbie, what do you think?
I think it was actually great. I'm happy to see that people came on and actually watched us while we did a live event, which, you know, a lot of times, not saying that social media kind of blocks some stuff just because, you know, who knows, I guess just a caption or whatever could be something that they feel is inappropriate. But it's one of them things. I think this will actually let people actually see what we're doing at the same time, hear and acknowledge we're just regular people, just like everybody else that is trying to show a podcast and talk about our opinions.
Agreed. Remember, guys, we don't do Facebook Live all the time. So when it's, you know, as the weeks go by, we have we're on SoundCloud, we're here in Zoom meeting, and also we have our own YouTube. So hold on a second. Okay, we have our YouTube. Oh, that's the wrong thing. Okay, so we have a YouTube account. It's Arm and a Leg Podcast. You go on there, look it up. You please subscribe and click the notification button. So when we do put out a podcast, you see the video. And if it's controversial for Facebook, they will not let us. You know, they'll block it, but you'll get the notification from YouTube so you can watch it.
Yeah. Also, if you can, when you tune in, give us some comments, or also if you're coming on while we're live, go ahead and state your comments or your opinions, and we'll kind of bring those in and talk about it. And this is an opinion podcast, so we're not going to knock your opinion. We're more going to debate with you, and who knows? Maybe you'll change our minds, or we'll change your minds. So
For sure.
that's
All
one
right.
of the biggest things.
That's
Everybody
right.
has an opinion.
All right, guys. Thank you once again so much for tuning in to Arm and Leg Podcast. My name is Brett Parks. And we are
Out of here.